Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. And I've been in a funk the last few days. There's been a lot of things going on in the world around me, in my personal life, in my recovery life that have just been kind of bothering me, and I found myself in a bit of a funk, and it's been kind of hard to lift myself out of it. That being said, I know that the best way to lift myself out of it is through action and not thinking about it. You know, when I was in my addiction and I got to feeling kind of funky in my brain, when I got in a weird headspace, when I got irritable, I would try to think my way out of it. Or I would just escape to drugs and alcohol. And that never really helped. If anything, it just kind of made the situation worse or pushed it a few hours down the line. And then I had to deal with it when I was impaired, which never made things any better. So in my recovery, I've had to come up with some very specific ways to deal with myself when I get in these kinds of headspaces. And one of the things that I want to point out is that I've noticed that this is something that happens to me, and it kind of comes in cycles. I'll be going along, kind of just feeling okay in recovery. Nothing's wrong, nothing's great, just feeling okay. And then something will happen, and I will feel really good. Like I'll feel super at peace with everything around me, and I'll just be kind of zenned out for a while. And that's usually an indication that things are about to dive, and I'm about to enter a period of discontent, a period of irritability, a period of whatever you want to call it. And that tends to be the cycle that it's followed. And then usually that period is followed by a rise back to feeling okay. So it's part of recovery. The distance between those changes has increased, and as time has gone on, I've spent more and more of my time sitting at the okay level, which is fine. That's not a bad place to be, and I think that's more than likely where we should expect to spend a lot of our lives. That being said, when I do get in these places, I got to be careful not to just dwell on them. When I get in a negative headspace, I can't just dwell on it. I've got to take some action to try to deal with it. So here's some ideas of actions you can take to help with those kinds of negative headspaces. First and foremost, easiest one, prayer and meditation. Now, if you're not religious or don't have a higher power, don't balk at the idea of prayer. Prayer can be as simple as imagining that you are talking to someone who loves you unconditionally. That's really what we're talking about when we talk about prayer. Whether you're talking to a religious God, whether you're talking to a higher power, or whether you're talking to an imaginary thing. The important thing about prayer is the act of unloading yourself, of discussing yourself and your problems with something that accepts you as you are. And the act of doing that can be very cathartic. It can be very cathartic. So I highly encourage anybody who's in recovery to experiment with prayer, even if you aren't religious. And just imagine you're talking to someone, and it can be someone who's real, who you've encountered in your life, like maybe a parent, or it can be a completely imaginary entity. But just imagine yourself talking and sharing your problems and sharing your thoughts with someone who loves you unconditionally. Just do that. See if you feel any better about it, things afterwards. Meditation is also extremely helpful for people. I have personally struggled with meditation helping me. Now, I haven't had a lot of teaching in meditation, so that could be part of it. Maybe I could use some more guidance in that realm. But I know many people who feel like meditation is really the key to lifting themselves out of these situations. Try all of it, see what works, and then go down that path. Another thing that's been really helpful for me in these situations is journaling, writing down my thoughts, sharing my thoughts, putting together a video with my thoughts, talking through things. That's been super helpful. So if one idea for journaling that really worked for me, write to yourself early in the morning. And I was taught this. This is not my idea. I was taught this by a mentor in treatment. Write to yourself as yourself in the morning. Write down all your thoughts, all your complaints, everything that is bothering you. And then in the evening, write back to yourself as either your higher power or someone who loves you unconditionally. Again, we're trying to get that perspective and trying to build a relationship with the idea of someone or something that accepts us wholly. And doing that unlocks some of the frustration that we often feel in a world that it doesn't seem like accepts us sometimes. Exercise has been another huge part of taming these ups and downs in recovery for me. What I've found is that if I'm getting regular exercise, the time between these disruptions for me, the time between going into negative headspace, that's greatly extended, and it helps regulate my mood so much. You got to be careful because you can get addicted to exercise because those endorphins feel nice. But that being said, exercise is a wonderful, wonderful way to regulate your mood, and it helps to keep those times where you do get into a negative headspace. It helps to keep those a little bit less impactful. If you're really struggling, it's middle of the night, you don't have a lot of other options, mind activities like doing a puzzle, writing creatively, doing some kind of art, crossword, anything that engages your mind and really requires you to be fully involved in what you're doing, that can help as well. Because as soon as those neurons start firing about something other than what's driving you crazy, then those neurons about things that are driving you crazy get a chance to chill out a little bit, get a chance to relax. And if they kind of stop, then you might have an opportunity to lift yourself up out of whatever situation is really bothering you. Avoid escapism here, though. When I'm really in my head about something, going and watching a funny movie or reading a book to try to get away from it, a lot of times that doesn't work. Now, if it does work for you, great. But a lot of times that doesn't work because my mind just wanders. So I find it really important to find something that I can really focus on. And then the last thing, and maybe the most important thing that you can do, the most effective thing you can do, is interact with other people in recovery. Go to a meeting. Call someone who's in recovery. Check in on them. Don't call them to complain about your problems. Call them to check in on them. Help someone else, whether it's in recovery, whether it's going to volunteer somewhere, but do something with the fellowship of people in recovery or the fellowship of people in general. Reconnect with the world around you in a way that doesn't involve whatever's bringing you down in your mind. So these are all different ways that I deal with this kind of situation, where I'm in this kind of funk, where I got this kind of thing going on. And it happens more and more rarely as I progress in recovery, but it's important for me to get back to basics when it does, and to make sure that I've got these tools in my tool belt so that I don't get so wrapped up in my emotions, my feelings, and my thoughts that I end up in an even more miserable place where going back to drug or alcohol use looks like an attractive solution. That's it for today. Hope you all have a good one. I'll be back here tomorrow with more.